But then like, then I had that after that happened, I had the conversation with my pastor and his family, and they were like, "Oh yes, it all makes sense. You were born like the angel wanted you to would talk about you being born, and then you're firstborn, and you know the witch side of your family wants you, and you're gonna be like a redeeming side of your family, because like our family, you know, kind of stopped going to church and stuff because of hurts and stuff in the past.
Yeah.
I was kind of like a revitalization of like everybody going, and you know, and they were like, yes, that those witches, you know, or whatever they are, that side of that family wants to take you away from your mom and stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, you know. Just like kind of like saying it was important, you know. It was nuts.
Jesus Christ, dude.
It's weird that like we're best friends, and on your side you got witches. On my side, my grandpa's a theologian.
Yeah.
Stop knocking shit over, dog.
But dude, there's so much.
Theologian.
There's. We could go on another.
I didn't even know
episode.
that. Like, I've known you all this time, and it wasn't until I was a Christian that all of a sudden your grandfather was like, check out my, what is it called? Like,
The Strong's Accordance.
it's accordance, yeah. Check this out,
And
boys.
he has a Greek Bible. He can read in Greek.
Oh, that was the same thing with one of my other friends, the one that lived right next to us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his grandfather was a pastor and big time and stuff like that too. And I was like, wasn't until I became a Christian I was like,
I've lived beside
people
you for
like, yeah. I don't know.
Do you remember when the pastor drove us around at like 2 a.m? He's like, so it's me and him just riding with our pastor at 2 a.m. in his like shitty ass Lincoln fucking Continental from like 1986.
Comfy seats though.
Comfy seats, but
Leather. Dual. Like climate zone. So like
4 couple.
4.
But we pull up to it was a church, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We pull up to a church, but it was like one of those like
After we passed by several hookers.
yeah.
And he's like, there's a lady of the night.
But we pull up to this church, and it wasn't like a church. It was one of those like buildings that a church bought and made into a church.
Yeah.
And so we pull in. He's like, step out of the car, please.
Pretty much. He's like,
He's like, get out
get
of
out
the car.
of the car.
And like
We're
I was
like-
in the back seat. He was in the front.
And we're like downtown.
So yeah, Josh does one of these. Like he's like, get out of the car. Josh is like, what? Like 180s in his seat. And yeah, and like our town's not the safest town, like especially at night. So we're like, do we have to? Yeah, it is, dude. So we get out, and we're like, why are we out of the car? He's like, stare at this building.
I thought he was going to leave us. He's like, get out. And he's just going to leave us here, and then it's going to be like,
No.
Shush.
what is this, a test?
Hey,
Are our
watch the
sins this
camera.
great?
Is this a test? If you live tonight, you are chosen.
Inside this building.
You will find the key.
But so we get out, and he's like, stare at this building. We're like, alright. So we're just looking at this building, pitch black, 2 a.m. It's like, tell me what you see. I'm like, nothing.
A building.
A building. And he goes,
Interesting. He was like, oh, interesting.
What did he ask?
Interesting. What do you think of the building? I'm like, there's nobody there. Like, you can tell there's no one there.
No cars in the parking lot.
It's 3.
All the lights are
3
off.
a.m. And we're standing there. I don't know what this building is.
the
I
locked
don't see no
fence-
sign. We didn't know it was a church. Locked fence and everything. And I'm
The
sitting
locked
there.
fence we drove through to get into the parking lot. I'm just kidding.
So we assume, yeah. So we assume that it is just like several other buildings.
It's like a
downtown.
warehouse. Like it just looks like a warehouse.
This is an abandoned building, and he's like, oh.
Here's a whole list of opportunities.
It's in it. It's in
I
it.
didn't even see.
Yeah, and he's like, interesting. Get back in the car. Get back in the car. We got in the car. So interesting. Drove us back. Woke up his family. 3 in the morning.
Guess what they saw?
Get down here. They went. When I took them to the building where I started my journey of becoming a pastor, where his tutelage was, and he is just like, you know what they said about the building? It's abandoned.
2 o'clock in the morning, no one there. Lights are off.
And we're just like, yeah, like.
It's abandoned.
And they were excited for us that we saw an abandoned building at night when there's nothing there. I mean, this is
Like there wasn't even like one of those like cars that's been there for months.
like they
Yeah.
expected us to be like, oh, this is a church or a great big building or there's something here or whatever. What do you? It was an abandoned, like there's nobody there.
It's just like the Drake.
We didn't even know it was a
Drake
church.
meme clapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I remember we're sitting in his living room. He's like, "No, boys, what would you say if I told you that building was a church?"
He did, and we were like,
Cool.
I was like, here we go. And they, shared that this is the church that he started with and everything, and he's like, so interesting that you thought it was abandoned, because there's hundreds of people that go there every Sunday and other days and stuff like that, and you think it's abandoned.
This is the same guy that said when he went into a different type of church, his nose started bleeding.
Yeah,
He said, "What denomination was it?"
we gotta get out of here. Come on.
Yeah, he said.
My nose is bleeding.
He's
Like,
like,
just fucking spit everywhere.
No.
he said, it was a preacher that he was at odds against because
Gang wars
Yeah.
in churches.
he went into
Holy wars?
he went in to talk to him, to that preacher, like he was like, "You're teaching false doctrine," and he said he like got to the steps and like he's like, "I got to the doors and then blood just started running down my nose," and we're like, "Dry air, dog."
Just did a line.
That's crazy.
The same dude that said he banged a fucking Victoria's Secret supermodel in college.
I think it was around this time. They felt like we needed to take our next step. And literally, the next step for them was to move us in. Not in the house, though, because it was a house, full of women. Pretty much.
So much temptation.
No, there was no temptation there at
Trust me.
all. None whatsoever. I mean, one had a
Don't.
Marine.
Don't. Just stop.
Never mind.
Stop. Anyways,
Interesting.
so like,
I'll
tell you later. So, and like when hindsight, when you go back, you think about it. It kind of seems like, okay, we were conned, we were conned, very much so. So like they were like, we want you to move in, but we're gonna put you in the building that's around back.
like a 10 by 10 shed with like no windows. It's like 6 feet tall.
And
There's like no walls. It's just a big ass freaking room.
and I'm not gonna lie, like he was more like.
Yeah, I was like, fuck that. Like straight up.
But I was like looking at him like, dude, I'll do it if you do it.
I'm just like, no, man.
No, he agreed. He was like, let's do it. And then guess what they had us doing? Cleaning out that shed. Yeah. So we went out there and they had so much shit, like a hoarder couldn't even, like, a hoarder would be telling them,
you got a fucking
problems. There was so much crap out there. We cleaned it all out for them. Like,
yeah.
Like they would disappear. Like they would help us, but disappear.
Bless our preacher's heart. He sprained his ankle the first 30 seconds of trying to help.
he did. It was like when we were pulling up. We were walking up the steps to the house, and he's coming up. Hey boys! And like he's saying all of a sudden, go, oh shit! And like fall.
And he did the Peter Griffin.
Like,
he's like, I can't help. Oh no!
I was gonna help you boys.
Yeah, he's like, I was feeling good about lifting all these boxes, but I'll just have to sit and watch TV instead.
But you know what the bad part was? We took everything out of the building, and they were like, well, they were like telling us like, we're gonna throw everything away, and then it was, we can't throw this away. This is so and so's baby pacifier that he used
from 1943.
The dude is 40 years old now. Like, let it go. So like it became, take everything out of the shed. Oh wait, we can't throw this away. And I'm not gonna lie, me and Luke left it
out in the fucking yard,
and the grass grew
around it,
all over it. And they kept asking when we were coming back to clean up their stuff and help them. You live there. Like in the house, people didn't have jobs, and it was like, I work, you worked. We're not coming. We're not coming over to, like,
do something that you have plenty of free time to do yourself.
And we don't even know. Like, how do we help you when you're telling us don't throw stuff away?
Yeah,
it's impossible. It's an impossible task. So we left that stuff out there, and they were
still out there.
They were still. Well, no, somebody else has the place now. So, but like. Maybe whenever they left, I think it was some of it was still there. So like, we just stopped going. Not to the church, because we still went to the church, but like, so then like every Sunday, he'd be preaching about how people don't help them.
If you don't help out your brother, you're going to hell.
And he just look at you like,
just stops. That's it.
He'd have his glasses like this. Like it. But they did. They had this.
And there was a couple.
Thing.
Dude, there was a couple times where they'd even be like, they'd be like, and one of the best things you can do is give your time to help your brethren. Unlike these two members of our church here.
We're only two members.
And there's like 30 people there, and we're like, thanks, dog.
Thanks. There's my grandparents. There's his dad.
My dad is sitting there like...
Dude, that was me when my dad would take me to church. Because I would have to go over weekends, and I'd stay up all night with my stepbrother playing games, and it'd be like Sunday.
Time to get to church. Boys.
And it's like, alright, let's go. And I'd be like, oh, fuck, forgot. And like, one of the first times I went, I was wearing a Slipknot shirt with a pentagram on the back, and I was like, why are people looking at me so weird? I don't know, I'm tired as hell. I'll wake up, his boss gives me $20 for ice cream.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I remember there was one sermon about telling the truth, even if it'll like make you or others feel bad. And the whole sermon is just like, if you feel that you telling the truth will hurt someone's feelings, you are doing them more harm than good. You need to tell the truth. So after the sermon, me and him are sitting there with the family, just talking around, and I'm like bored as hell. Like I just want to go home. Like I'm like twiddling my thumbs, like about to fall asleep.
I'm not gonna lie, I think I was way more invested.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
And then
I'm gonna learn a bunch of shit today.
and then the pastor's like, he's like, Luke,
I remember this.
what's wrong? What's going on? Why are you talking much? I was like, oh no reason. He's like, remember the sermon, you should always tell the truth. And I'm like,
Well,
I'm bored as hell and I want to go home. And he's like,
then leave.
yeah. So I get up and leave.
And I'm like,
20 minutes later, he texts me, hey, the pastor's mad that you left.
and he's like, I just did what he told me to do in the sermon.
God, dude.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you were there for this one. Like, I was there a lot.
Yeah.
So, like, there's things that, like, happen. But, okay, so, you might have been there. So, one of the women in the family had a dude come over. And it was kind of like the introduction to, like, hey, this might be my boyfriend. Get to know him and stuff like that. And this dude, I think you were there. This dude comes over, and they're all like, what does he want with my sister? What does he want? Let's figure him out. So you go to church. Tell me what John 32:97 says. And the guy's like, I don't know. Interesting. What's your favorite verse? And he's like, Ephesians 9 something. And like, they look at him and they're like, Ephesians 9 doesn't even exist, which I think so. I don't remember, but it's something like he gave some number of a false chapter, and they're like, okay, so this dude's like literally like he's lying about how much he goes to church and stuff. And like after he leaves, like the one who invited over, they were like looking at her and they're like, he's never allowed to come back. Not allowed to come back. Did you all see the dragon upon him?
Yeah, oh my God.
Did you see that
And
yellow dragon?
And his mom was like, yes, I saw it.
It was yellow. So like they were talking about how they like saw the dragon, the demon, wrapped around this guy.
Yeah, he got him in his fucking clutches.
He's here for vagina. Was basically. And I mean,
Poor dragon.
Yeah, that was one. I knew you were there. You'd remember like one point of it, but it was so weird because they invited us over, like it was Bible study.
Yeah.
And I think at the time they were doing like an arts and craft Bible study.
Yeah, we're like fucking
macaroni.
old as shit, and they're like, today we're going to be coloring a picture of a.
We're gonna build Noah's Ark today.
And like we're looking around and it's like 60-year-old woman, 45-year-old man, 30-year-old woman, 35-year-old woman. We're like,
and guy that wants to be boyfriend, I guess. Dragon man.
dragon guy.
The guy with the dragon tattoo.
Yeah. It was
Dragon guy.
That's so stupid. And then one time,
Dude, that lasted for like 3 months. That stupid arts and crafts crap.
Yeah, that's whenever we were. That was around the time that they were talking about we're gonna be really big one day, and we're gonna sit before kings and queens.
No.
And they're like, and like I'm sitting right now, they would like look at you and be like, "Nope, you're being rude. Elbows off of the tables. No, your back is touching. You have to sit like
Your shoulders have to be back, your chest has to be out, and like your head has to be up.
what the fuck?
So like
And you can't bring bowls to your thing. So if you eat soup, you gotta do it like this
yeah.
without spilling it on yourself.
So like I'm a jackass. So like naturally, after she said that, I'm like, okay, so like this. I'm trying to get in the camera. I'm like, you just want me to sit like this?
And like I was sitting there and I looked at Luke and I said, if someone's sitting at my table like that, I'm gonna be offended. Because they were saying like we're gonna offend kings, and I'm like, I'm offended right now about how he's sitting. And they were like, you don't want to learn from us. Leave. And we were like, let's go. Left.
The next time we see him, we're eating soup, like spilling it everywhere.
I've been practicing. Like your arm shaking as you're like trying to.
Oh man,
dude, there's so much. It's gonna be like 2 episodes of just this.
did it die again?